Good morning, folks. Welcome back to Three's In. Bobo here. The first entry for today is about a friend of mine. I haven't seen him for probably 15, 20 years, but I think of him often. He was a man that I met in 1984, 84, 85. I'm thinking probably closer to 84. And I just immediately clicked with him. Just an easygoing, down to earth guy. His name is Greg Lozer, and he was on the IG team at the time, and he'd come down to the squadron with John DePiro to give us our annual or 18-month inspection. I think we were on an 18-month cycle in those days. At any rate, we had a chance to sit and play Stump the Dummy with respect to training philosophy, and I was just so impressed with his common sense approach to student training. It was aligned with how I thought, and I think we kind of bonded there. At any rate, I said he was on the IG team. He might have been in Stanaval. They worked in concert with each other, but be that as it may. Not long after that, I went from check section in the 560th up to Stanaval, and I had the occasion to give Greg a check ride one day. And giving a check ride to Greg was a no-brainer. I mean, the guy was good, just very good. And he was a good instructor, he was a good pilot, and it was just going to be one of those rides where I could just sit back and enjoy the ride. And I did. So we fly this check ride, and we come back in and taxied into parking, and we got out of the jet, and Greg's filling out the forms, and I'm just kind of putzing around waiting for him. And crew chief came up and says, excuse me, Colonel Holliker. He said, who parked the jet today? And I said, well, Colonel Lozer did. Why is that? And he said, that's the best job of parking I've ever seen. So I'm thinking, damn, that's remarkable. So anyway, I didn't say anything to Greg about it. We went in, hung up our chutes, got a cup of coffee, went back to flight room to debrief. And while I'm going through the grade sheet, through the evaluation sheet, I get down to ground operations and made a note to myself and went on through the rest of the evaluation form. And I don't know if Greg got an outstanding that day or an excellent. Probably should have gotten outstanding, but at any rate, I think he probably did. Anyway, I flipped the thing over and I said, Greg, I said, there's one commendable item I'm going to assess for this evaluation. He said, what's that? And I said, ground ops for parking. And Greg looks at me, and I'll never forget, he has this look, you gotta be shitting me. Nobody gets a commendable for parking. And really, they didn't. But I couldn't pass it up. Once that crew chief recognized that and recognized the beauty of that maneuver, how could I not comment on it? So I put down commendable item, parking, and made a comment about the crew chief remarking about it. And often wonder how that was looked at up at headquarters, because they would review all these check ride forms. But anyway, I really didn't care what they thought. I was having some fun with Greg. Greg then went down to Laughlin to become the squadron commander down there in the T-38 squadron. His ops officer was a guy named Sig Hall, and I just thought the world of both those guys. I liked both of them. So one day I flew down to Laughlin and had lunch with him. I was on a student out and back, so I just called him up and said, hey, you guys got time for lunch? Yeah. So I flew down to the student, told him to go do some flight planning, grab a bite to eat or something. I went over to the 38 squadron, collared him up. We went over to the officers club and then finished lunch. And he said, you got some time? I want to show you something. I said, sure. So he took us by the new squadron building they were building for student training, a new student squadron building. And the first thing, it was still under construction, but the first thing I noticed was it had a wheelchair ramp going up to the building. And I don't know, about that time I'm getting really snarky in my career, and I'm thinking I look over at Greg or say one of the two or maybe both, and I said, what's this wheelchair ramp for? I said, is this in case Christopher Reeves decides he wants to come to pilot training? And both of them just cringed. I would be the one that would ask that question. But anyway, we laughed about it. I went and got back in the jet with my student, came back to Randolph. Short while after that visit, I put in for retirement, and my change of command in my squadron was November 30th, 1987. And I'll never forget, Greg and Sig Hall flew up for that change of command. And I still today really appreciate them coming to that change of command. I mean, these are just two high quality guys. And for them to come up to attend that, it's just so heartwarming to me. So that's something that'll stay with me. I would see Greg on occasion. I haven't seen Sig since I got out of the Air Force, but I'd see Greg on occasion. He retired, stayed there in San Antonio, and then he took a job with the simulator folks out at the base, and I would pop in there every now and then and sit down and have a cup of coffee with them, and we would joke and laugh about the good old days. And I would ask him when he was teaching simulators, I said, are you passing on your skill set for parking? And we would laugh even harder. Anyway, Greg, if you see this, God love you. I sure do. And I hope you're doing well. Take care, sir.